That's 6 feet right there. Is that the edge of the tire?
Hey, this is Davin with Hagerty on our Redline Rebuilds. We are starting a brand new project. This is a 1937, I'm going to call it a modified or a stock car, depending on how you look at things for the era. And thanks to Tom here with Barn Find, he located this down in Virginia at Snowballs and twisted his arm enough to let us work on it.
Snowball Bishop was a guy that I met when I wrote a book called Barn Find Road Trip a number of years ago. Driving down the highway, I look at a field and it's loaded with little cars. So it took us about 45 minutes, an hour to find how to get to that from the interstate. But he started to show us cars outside and then in the garages, and the one that really got our attention, we opened his creaky old wooden doors, and this old stock car was inside there. It was a stock car that he was building and then just stopped building it, I guess, 20, 30 years ago.
But he had already raced 3 or 4 of these in this.
He was famous in that region on dirt tracks for running 37 Ford Coupes.
Yeah, so it's a 37 Ford Coupe. It would be a split window. They took out the center post, and then also the side posts are gone. Obviously, we do not have an engine in here at this point, radiator and such. And yes, for those that are scrutinizing our car, these are asphalt tires, not dirt tires. It's called How to Make It Roll. That's what these were for. It is an interesting combination of parts in my head because it's a 55 Chevy frame. It has a solid axle from a Ford, of course the Ford body. It has a quick change rear end, which I'm guessing is probably a Franklin, most likely. It has what I refer to now as a wide 5 hub, racing hub, which is used on all the late model racing today. And but being the, call it rear fendered, no front fender, class-wise for today's classes like UMP or IMCA, this would be considered a modified, which just means it has to have a front clip and the front wheels are exposed, and of course it has a full frame or a full cage in it as well, which actually is pretty impressive for what's in here. You can tell they're very close to NASCAR country.
No kidding.
Because it has that. And of course, in a dirt car, you wouldn't have a windshield. But given what this car is going to do, we're going to have that windshield so it kind of comes in and out. And at the end of the day, this is going to be functional. As a race car, obviously it's going to be not the fastest thing on the track because technology has moved way out there now. And we're going to paint this one. It's going to be pretty.
So the racing history for Snowball Bishop was that he started to run cars like this with flathead engines. And then when Chevy came out with the overhead valve 265, 283, 327, he was not winning anymore. So he tried other engines, but never wanted to become a Chevy guy. And so what he did was went over to Richard Petty's shop and made a deal to buy a bunch of 440 and 426 parts that were outdated at the time. Richard was running Hemis, and so all the standard 440 and 426 engines were lying there. Petty said, "We want $1,000 for it." He said, "Well, I have $1,000, but if I give it to you, I don't have enough gas to get home. Would you take 900?" And so that started him on a trend of buying and fixing up some 440s, Mopars for these cars. And so what we're going to do is we picked up all the parts we could find around the barn. We don't have everything we need, but we have a transmission, we have a flywheel, we have headers, we have a bell housing. We're going to have to source some parts, but we did bring the 440 that Snowball had planned to put in this thing so many years ago.
All right, well, hey, enough of the background. We'll talk about it more as we go. And of course, there's going to be a video over here that launches that as well, of discussion relative with Tom and myself with Snowball. So that a little more of that history piece. But for today, Tom and I need to get this stripped apart and start working on it. I think it's crazy that they run a 440 in here when a 350 and 383 is the thing of the day now.
No kidding.
For power.
Oh, whoops, wrong way.
It will fit in between there, right? Yeah.
Yep.
There it is.
What's so hard about that?
We're done. Sweet.
Wow. What a blast.
All right, well, see you tomorrow. Obviously, this is a joke. We're just setting it in here to actually see how it looks. And because this is the first time we've ever had it underneath the hood. And it's going to be a little bit of a task to make some things work. Like right now, I see the steering shaft runs dead smack through the header or the exhaust flange on this side. Obviously, you won't have any issues over there other than dealing with the bar coming forward.
So these heads are offset. Yours is further forward than mine is.
Yeah. All right, sweet. All right, let's get this out of there and let's get to real work.
So I feel like I'm working in somebody else's kitchen. This is. I thought this might have been a Buick brake because that's the way they look, but it's. It says right here, Franklin Racing Equipment. So, and this is probably designed in the 50s or 60s around using old Ford equipment. Anyway, yeah, I got it. I got it with this. Well, you know, I got the outer bolt off. I got the kind of the locking washer, but the inner bolt, or the nut, I'm sorry, is arm tighter than I thought it would be. Oh, there we go. Okay.
I can try to match it up later with
I don't know what you're having such a hard time with there, David.
So one of our challenges is going to be understanding what parts are what, meaning if they need to be replaced, what are they actually off of? We already know we have a Chevy frame, we have a Ford front suspension, we have an aftermarket hub here, and of course we're going to have a Chrysler motor, so obviously a big mix and match of parts relative to a race car.
Next time my Woody's up here, you and I get on a back road and do this. Burn big streaks of rubber.
I'm in. All right, Tom, I got a quick question for you. Before we drop this front axle out of here, you know this is a thing, right?
A thing?
A thing.
It's a hybrid.
I'm a Chevy guy.
Well, I'm a Ford guy.
I know.
This kind of has us both satisfied, right?
It really does. But I have to ask you, so of all the Fords that are out there, right, either that you personally own or whatever, what one is the one?
GT40.
Really?
Yeah, the 65, 66, yeah.
Okay.
Well, okay, so Chevy. What would be your...
Well, actually, I own and have my absolute most favorite Chevy, and it's a 66 396 Chevelle. But I have one more on my list of favorites, and that would be a 55 210 black and white, bench seat, four on the floor. Yes, I've thought about this lots of times. That's what I would like. So it's a post car, right? Not
Okay,
the.
you know what? All right. So if I had to pick a Chevy, it'd be interesting, but it wouldn't be a 55. Mm-hmm. Be a 57 Black Widow car with fuel injection and 6-bolt wheels.
Fair enough. There you go. There you go. Now on the Ford side, this is the part that you're going to laugh at. Mine on the list would be a GT40, but it wouldn't have to be the old one.
Oh, it could be like a 2005?
I'd easily deal with one of the 05s.
600 horsepower.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, wow. So I drove a new one, and I've driven the car that won Le Mans in '66.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they're both.
I saw the movie. Does that count?
That was a replica.
Oh, of course. All right. So.
Have you broken off your?
I am not broken out from the frame. I think we're going to have to go. We'll call it one at a time.
Yep. Decades.
Yeah.
You know, what they would do is building a car to kind of resemble the car they used to race. And they probably started this in the 80s or something. So, you know, probably 30, 40 years.
There it is.
Look at that.
Well, for what it's worth, I got my side done. Same. Just throwing that out there, Tom.
Look, I write books, okay?
Got it. All right, hey, we made very good progress this morning. The front suspension's completely out. That's the axle, the shocks, the leaf springs. And then likewise on the back, the quick change is on the floor, and we have the springs and shocks and everything out there. Next step is we're gonna take and get the trunk lid and the hood off and start focusing on the couple little pieces that are left on it, which really is a fuel cell that's actually just sitting in the hole, and a seat that's bolted in, and of course the steering wheel and the steering box. But if you notice, this morning went really smooth because, well, I gave Tom the easy side. All the bolts are already broken loose, but don't tell him that. All right, like about like this. Bah! So the plans for the brakes ultimately here is, one, I'm not going to leave it up to a single reservoir to do all four corners. We'll either put a dual split reservoir in it or a pair of singles. And then as far as the brake lines are concerned, we'll run all fresh steel lines. Today's world, you might run even a plastic line for the brake lines relative to the racing side of things, and then some steel braided lines going as joust lines from the frame rail up to the wheel cylinders. But in our case, we'll try to stick with rubber because that's what they would have used at the time. And then of course steel as far as the main lines are concerned.
Probably tar, like
Yeah.
from the road.
Yeah. Wait, wait.
You be right.
Oh, come on. I got her. This car is officially stripped.
You know, it's not bad for a couple hours of work.
There is not a part left on it that's bolted on. Everything else is welded, including the body.
Yep.
All the peripheral parts we got kind of strewn around a little bit. We need to organize those. And we can continue that teardown piece tomorrow. But for today, I think we did a good job. We're going to, we got a couple options locally as far as how we get this stripped. We've been kicking around doing it ourselves here in the back parking lot. We may or may not be able to do that with just a little pot blaster. And then I certainly don't want to do it in here. That'd be a bad idea. But also there's a soda blaster guy and a big booth guy here, so that won't be a problem. Get that done locally. But yeah, nice job.
Yeah, no, you're not a bad worker.
Yeah, you don't do too bad yourself.
For the kid that you are.
And you know what? There's only one thing left for you to do.
Ride away on your broom?
I'll raise it for you.
What are you still doing here? This video's over. But click on one of these other videos and see what else Hagerty has to offer. Happy hunting.